You put in the hours and you memorize the material, but high-stakes environments trigger state anxiety. This physiological response hijacks your limited working memory, forcing your brain to process worries instead of solving problems. This neurological traffic jam leaves you without the cognitive capacity to retrieve the information you studied. When your brain is occupied by the fear of failure, it physically cannot access the data required to answer the question in front of you. We are going to bypass this response using a personalized 4-step high-performance exam game plan. This strategy uses cognitive science, sleep research, and biological psychology to keep your brain's executive control online when the pressure peaks. To start, you need your baseline metrics. Identify your specific target exam date, then gather a calendar and a timer. We are moving away from vague study sessions and toward a precise biological protocol. Shifting your preparation to focus on physiological markers transforms the testing experience. You replace unpredictable panic with repeatable, data-driven habits that yield consistent results. Reliable test day performance begins with how you schedule your preparation. Most students rely on massed practice, or cramming, which is the primary cause of short-term memory failure under pressure. Cramming creates an illusion of competence. Because the material is fresh in your mind the night before, you falsely believe you have mastered it, only to find you cannot retrieve that same data 12 hours later during the actual exam. Building durable long-term memory requires a distributed timeline. Map out study blocks 4 to 6 months before your test date, dedicating hours each week to consistent review. Also schedule full-length practice tests every 6 weeks to build mental endurance for a 3-hour exam. These timed simulations desensitize your brain to the testing environment. Through repetitive exposure, you learn exactly when to skip a question or move on, ensuring your working memory isn't hijacked by a pre-rehearsed game plan. Systematic exposure to the test format neutralizes the fear of the unknown. By the time you reach the official exam, the pacing is familiar enough that your cognitive resources remain dedicated entirely to problem solving. Within your weekly blocks, you must fight Parkinson's law, the psychological reality that work will expand to fill whatever time you allot for it. An open-ended study session is an invitation for distraction. We solve this by engineering temporal scarcity. You are going to create artificial time pressure to force your brain into a state of high efficiency. Select one specific task and set a hard timer for 30 or 50 minutes. When the timer rings, you must stop. This strict boundary prevents the illusion of productivity that comes from long, unfocused hours. This artificial urgency mimics a pressure of a deadline, locking your brain into deep focus. You are weaponizing your own psychology to finish in 50 minutes what usually takes 3 hours. Using these temporal boundaries allows you to achieve deep, distraction-free work on command. You are training your mind to prioritize the most important information before the clock runs out. As test day approaches, many students experience a specific guilt over resting, leading them to sacrifice sleep for extra late-night study hours. Sacrificing rest is a direct biological penalty. Sleep deprivation impairs your brain's executive function and working memory, making it physically harder to process complex math or retrieve vocabulary. Data from college-level surveys confirms a positive correlation between hours of sleep and final performance. Students who sleep the full 7 to 9 hours consistently outscore those who cram through the night. To maximize your score, execute a sleep taper. Establish a mandatory pencils downtime 2 full nights before the exam. This ensures your brain has the recovery time needed for data encoding. Your cognitive performance also relies on stabilizing your autonomic nervous system. A protein-heavy breakfast and restricted caffeine on the morning of the test prevent the blood sugar crashes and jitters that trigger a premature threat response. Adequate sleep and targeted nutrition are mandatory physiological phases of preparation. Without them, your brain cannot maintain the executive control required for high-stakes problem-solving. On test day, your body will release surging adrenaline. Instead of viewing sweaty palms or a racing heart as a sign of failure, recognize these as your body unleashing energy reserves to sharpen your ability. The Yerkes-Dodson curve shows peak performance requires moderate arousal. High anxiety pushes you into the red over-aroused zone, causing mistakes. Slow breathing lowers this, sliding you back to the green sweet spot. If under-aroused, brisk movement drives you back up to the peak. Inside the room, use a final cognitive reframe. Silently declare, "I am excited." This simple phrase helps your brain channel physiological arousal into a state of sharp, focused energy, rather than debilitating panic. Mastery over your own performance comes from this active, mechanical calibration of your nervous system. You are using your body's own biological signals to maintain a state of peak cognitive efficiency. Your completed game plan rests on 4 pillars: the distributed timeline, temporal scarcity, the biological sleep taper, and nervous system calibration. Each step is designed to keep your brain's hardware running at its maximum capacity. Test anxiety is a predictable physiological response to specific triggers. It is not a permanent personality trait or an intellectual deficit, and it is entirely solvable through structured preparation and biological boundaries. Integrating cognitive strategy with these physiological boundaries ensures that when the timer starts, your brain remains clear, capable, and entirely under your control. You are no longer hoping for a good score. You are engineering it.